Good morning, good afternoon, happy Monday, LinkedIn. Welcome to another edition of Let's Build HubSpot Adoption with Mr. Tony Dowling. How you doing, man?
I'm very well. Good morning, good afternoon. If you're over in my part of the world, just about 2 p.m. for me. So people are coming back from their post-lunch breaks now and getting down to some HubSpot adoption. I love it.
Yes, we are. And it's really hard to adopt something when you don't know what it is
Especially if you don't know what
or
it is.
or why you're using it or why somebody's asking you to use it. And this question specifically, like what is HubSpot? I remember earlier this year, before I started my series, before I was like, all right, nobody else is defining this, nobody else is explaining this. I searched on YouTube for what is HubSpot, and the number of videos that show up is not small,
Okay.
and they almost all say something different to answer the same, seemingly the same question, but also it showed me how far away we were from understanding that HubSpot is a customer platform. When you have all of these videos talking about it, it's a marketing tool, it's a CRM, it's some combination of those things
Yep.
specifically. And none of that, like most of them aren't even touching Service Hub yet, right?
Yep. Yep.
So, like, what are you supposed to do if you're out there wondering what is HubSpot? We're here to hopefully help with that today.
Yeah. In fact, it's a question that's fascinated me since I've been involved in HubSpot. I go back now 30 odd years to when I was in university, and I did physics at Swansea University, and I learned the scientific process, right? How we build laws of science, and it all boiled down to breaking something down to its most simple constituent parts, and obviously from a science perspective, being able to repeat things, right? So doing something and seeing a repeatable outcome, right? So this is how things work. So I'm the same when it comes to HubSpot. I'm sure it's some sort of hangover from back when I was an actual scientist. And I think about this a lot. What is HubSpot? What is it? When people buy it, I don't know. I don't always do this, but I must make a habit of it. But I'll often say, so what have you actually bought it for? And the answers, just like that video you mentioned, Chris, the answers are legion. There's all sorts of different reasons. Many of them, and this is why this pertains, I think, to strategy and to adoption particularly, because many of them relate to those tools. You mentioned it's a marketing tool. Some people think HubSpot is just its tools, just in inverted commas. They're quite powerful tools, But perhaps the more interesting question is why have you bought HubSpot? If HubSpot is the answer, what was the question? I think that's quite an interesting thing to ask. Why have you, not even what is HubSpot? Why have you bought it? What are you hoping it's going to do for you? Because in my mind, taking it back to first principles, if you don't know what it's going to do for you, you don't know if it's working. If you don't know why you've bought it, or I think you've probably got a pretty good idea. I think you've probably got a vague understanding of what it is, and it's probably linked to those tools that you mentioned. But what's it for? Why do you even buy it? And I think that's the place everybody has to start. You can't really adopt the thing unless you know what the thing is for. And I've lost count of the teams that we've met, the people that we've talked to, and I met somebody just last week. They've got no idea what they bought. They don't even know why they bought it. I don't think people are that stupid, right? What I mean is,
Right.
they don't have a really specific use case in mind. They're sort of like, it's going to help.
Right. Like
It's going to help us.
I'd say
Go
like
on.
I don't think it's out on a limb to say that in most cases it's the question is um like how do I grow or something related to we have growth goals. We're investing in this thing because
Yeah.
somebody has told us it will help most often for me in the form of, you know, leads or generating pipeline, right? Very not usually, in my experience, from an operational, perspective of creating efficiency
Hmm.
and effective process and things like that. It's like, how do we add to the top line?
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant answer to the question. And when you dig, how do we grow? Is absolutely there. And I think it's important to take our clients as HubSpot partners, our clients to that understanding, that realization. That's actually what we bought it for. But of course, as you touched on there, there's a strategic answer to that, and there's an operational answer to that. So we could say, for instance, well, we'll use email marketing. Great. Okay. So that's the tool that we're going to use. How are we going to grow our business using email marketing? Well, we'll send emails to, let's like, so my definition, or the way I like to explain it, perhaps it's not really a definition, but I love this idea, as you know, Chris, I love this idea of a platform, right? HubSpot is a platform upon which we can build our business. Okay. So there's two distinct parts. There's the CRM, and then there are the tools. That's just my way of cutting that up, right? It's fairly basic, fairly straightforward. What's the CRM? The CRM is your business data, the receptacle of information, the system of record, I think HubSpot call it. However you want to describe it, single customer view, single source of truth, so on and so on and so on. The operative word being single. It's meant to be the one record that you have in your business that everything else talks to. And then the tools, they're I mean, God, we were talking about updates last week. The tools are just flying in. They've got loads of tools. And now AI has been added into it. There's tons and tons of tools. But you have to make the distinction, why, where do you start using the tools? What do you use the tools for? And in what way do you use them? So like I said, for instance, I'm going to do email marketing. I'm going to do social media marketing is my favorite one. Social media marketing, right? To do what? What's the actual objective? These are the questions, I think. So on the one hand, we've got data, information about our customers. That makes sense. I can store their names and their addresses and their telephone numbers. I can store their predilections. I can store their past purchases. I can store their favorite flavor of cake, anything that I might find useful, probably in terms of a cross-sell or an upsell from a commercial perspective. I can store in HubSpot and I can recall it easily. I can make big lists of people. That makes a lot of sense to me. And the tools are almost secondary then. The way I'm then going to reach those people, the way, if I can coin a phrase, I'm going to go to market, that seems to be the jargon these days, is by utilizing various softwares that are available to me. But HubSpot have been clever enough to build them all into this platform, right? So imagine HubSpot's a table, your business is sat on the table, two-dimensional platform, right? Your business is sat on it, and that goes for your acquisition, your sales, your delivery, your collection of revenues. It's all built into this table, and it's all connected into the one platform. That's broadly it, right? That's broadly what you buy. And I think, my quest is to understand where you go from there to buying it. So if somebody's explained that to you, right, or you've listened to this show or one of your other shows, you've listened to all these HubSpot experts and they talk about it, how do you get to buying it? What decision are you making? Or, like we said right at the top, why are you buying HubSpot? What's it actually for? I would love to know how many people are buying it with a very clear perspective.
Oh man, I would love that too. One hand maybe we're counting on. That's especially those in growth mode. I think like startups are probably different from everybody else, but for the businesses I've seen and been a part of, like growth is happening already, right? And there's an element of, we know we need to keep making sure that it keeps happening. So there's always got to be the more. How do we get more? But then like the dirty secret that we talk about every week is like something is not working and we need to solve for that too. And I think it definitely, I agree with Tony that you need to get clear on the purpose of HubSpot, for the business. And if you're having trouble doing that beyond because I imagine when you're hearing, oh, it can email, oh, it can do social, oh, it can, automate sales sequences, it can do all the AI stuff, right? That can help you do more. But that's where you're focusing on the grow and not the better, right? The
Yep.
grow better part, right?
Yep.
And if you need help, even if that's rubbing you the wrong way, everybody's telling you to be strategic and you're not sure how. Imagine that room that Tony described in HubSpot's in the middle. And in an adjacent room, you've got the ERP. And then in another room, you've got Outlook emails. And then in another room, you've got e-commerce, right? And in order to communicate with each other, you have to go into the other rooms, get the information, then come back to this room and tell me what that room told you, right? This communication element, I think so often the points of failure, whether it's internally or we didn't meet customer expectations, are because of a gap or failure of communication.
Yep.
And that's where I just remember something resonating in 2017 after having used Salesforce and QuickBooks as customer management tools, understanding immediately those two systems, like most systems, are built around company records or account records. When I first got introduced to HubSpot and I noticed that it was built around a contact record, around a human being, the people that we actually communicate with, it's okay, naturally this platform is better at managing communications.
Client relationships.
Right. And that's that should be, it's an easy win if you can get there. And means connecting the value of that to what you're trying to accomplish in the business.
This is exactly it. And you said something there, I think it's fascinating, right? HubSpot's not working for me. Okay, let's take that as a statement. Whether you're a lot or a little as a partner, probably hear it more than most people. HubSpot's not working for me. So my first question is, well, in what way? What do you mean it's not working, right? So there's some practical things that don't work, right? So like that communication breakdown, for instance, you can readily identify, I've got teams in silos, they're not talking to each other. So I've got my sales team using HubSpot or maybe Salesforce, as would perhaps be typical. I've got my marketing team using HubSpot, and they're using two different data sets. Right, so it's pointless, absolutely pointless. So okay, that's a practical thing. My connectors aren't working. I've connected my Xero or QuickBooks or anything else to HubSpot, and I can't generate it. Right? Okay, so that's what that's a thing that can go wrong. It doesn't work. And probably the ultimate one we hear about is the data's rubbish. We've got a load of data in there, and it's just garbage. It's out of date. It's incomplete. It's not reliable. So those are really practical things. Those are practical reasons why you could say HubSpot doesn't work. And I think that's where we come in then as partners and we go, okay, well, we can fix that. We can fix that. We can fix that. We can fix that. And then you spend this whole effort, you almost get blindsided. If you focus on the problems, you see problems, right? I know that maybe that sounds a bit obvious, but if what you're going to do is fix the problems you have with HubSpot, you'll spend a lot of money and probably never really get to the end of it. But okay, let's come in, let's deduplicate all your data. Let's enrich it with new Breeze AI tools or whatever. Let's sort out our email send-in domains so that the SPF records, DKIM and DMARC are all set properly, so we get better deliverability. Right? We can fix all those problems. But does that mean HubSpot's working? Until you ask the question, what have I got it for? You can't answer whether or not it works for you. Because like you, Chris, I think what it's for is to generate growth for your business. That's what it's for, surely. That's why people buy it. We've got insight, from new customers, where they're coming from existing customers, how much have they bought, when did they spend, how much on average do they spend, how long does it take to go through the sales process, how many tickets do they require to get themselves onboarded, and so on. We have so much information that we can make decisions based on. Are we using that? I feel like perhaps we're not. And then we've got the tools, and the tools are just being used, again, in my view, as individual sets of tools. So I've got my email tool. Great. Well, you might as well use Monkey Wrench or whatever it's called. MailChimp. Sorry. Or I've got my live chat, and I've got, or even worse, we see it all the time. We see people with HubSpot and other systems, and they're like, well, why are you using Hootsuite instead of HubSpot? Well, the interface is better. Well, okay. But it sort of defeats the whole purpose of having it in the first place, which is to bring everything back onto the table, bring it out of all the different rooms that we're talking about. Let's put all the information on the table so we can help our business grow. How are we going to help our business grow? By offering something that somebody wants more than they want the competition for whatever reason, right? You don't do that with an email campaign. You don't do that with social media. You do that through applying marketing sense, through applying commercialism, through applying, what changes do we need to make? What marketplaces do we need to be in? That's the sort of thing you should be using HubSpot for. So I think it's a fascinating question. When people say, is HubSpot working? Or even, it's more likely that they say HubSpot isn't working, You've got to really question that. Well, what does that mean? Is there a technical problem with it? Or are you not growing? Because it's hidden, like you said, Chris. Sorry, I know I'm going on a bit here. It's hidden because a lot of people buy it who are already in growth. They're in growth and they think, right, well, we need HubSpot because we're growing and it's all going crazy, some sort of organizational support or something like that. But when it comes to grow better, they don't even know what that means. Or if you're talking to a company in maturity, not a startup, and you're in maturity and they say, well, we need to increase our market share. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, we'll get HubSpot. Well, that's not,
okay.
That's not going to increase the market share.
You don't need me. Just go get HubSpot, right?
Exactly. So this is why I wanted to talk about this today, because it's like this first principle. We can't help you adopt HubSpot unless we really know what it is you're going to use it for.
Yeah.
And at a strategic level, not which tools you're going to use. What's the point? What are you trying to get to?
Yeah. No, I think, and that's why it's challenging right now as the ecosystem explodes, like the customer user base explodes. Brian and I are about to talk about in the next hour about how different maturity levels of business mean different things for how they're going to use and apply HubSpot. So it can be really hard to go see, oh, they're using it like this over here, and how does that apply to me, right? And almost like as you're describing that, I went from very quickly to wishing that sales, could learn how to sell it as a customer platform, from probably just accepting the fact that they're never going to. And when we come in and adopt and try to help, right, with adoption or challenges, right away, we need to find out, how was it sold to you? How did you buy it, right? Because as you described, what they need to do for their business, any SaaS company has to do as well. And that's like, find the thing that the customer knows, right? In this case, marketing tool, sales tool, CRM, and then get them excited about that and like differentiate yourself, and then they can buy. And that's much easier when it's a known concept like marketing, sales, CRM versus customer platform, which nobody knows what that means because it's brand new. So I think understanding right away, like, okay, like, how did you buy HubSpot? Like, what was the thing you were buying? It wasn't just HubSpot, right? It could be even the help desk now, or I need a new website, or all these things, like figuring out what the use case was. And then you can start to have a better conversation to get to the strategic goals of what they want to achieve out of HubSpot.
And I'm just convinced that I'm going to say most, and I mean 51% or more. Most businesses are coming into the purchase without having any kind of strategy at all. As you said, maybe they're a hot SaaS company, growing. They've managed to stumble onto a product market fit, or perhaps by design, and they're doing really well. Fantastic. That they're not using HubSpot strategically. They may not even need to use HubSpot. They're gonna grow whatever. I just say it's such a fundamental question, and I would love to, and if you are listening and you've got a view, please drop a comment or get in touch, because I think it's like the biggest question you could ask. I think for us, it's one of the most important questions we could ask. Let's put it that way: is why
Yeah.
have you bought it? So what do you want? It's like there are so many different ways to answer that question. There's so many ways that the salespeople could have sold it. There are so many reasons for people to buy the thing, and I think that's why we get stuck in the operational layer. That's why we get stuck in solving problems. That's why we get stuck in those technical bits that I talked about. The customer comes along and says, "Oh, my Salesforce integration is not working." Okay, we can sort that out. Or I've got 20,000 duplicate records. Can you help me? Yep, we can help with. We end up there, and where we should be is here, which is okay. How are we going to achieve growth? Do you know what? It's actually got nothing to do with HubSpot. HubSpot's a great tool. It's a fantastic tool. It's going to help us. But your growth strategy is not HubSpot. Your growth strategy is not RevOps. Your growth strategy is not marketing ops or any of these other things. Your growth strategy will involve your people, your product, where you sell, and the promotional activities that you're undergoing. It's got nothing to do with these tools, these software tools. And I think that's fundamental. I think SaaS companies generally, HubSpot specifically, are seeing a lot of churn for these reasons.
For sure.
I think people buy it and they think, right, this is going to help us grow our business.
Yep.
And they never get beyond the operational problem.
Yeah. And like I said, it's probably going to be challenging because I know what kind of pressure the sales team is under.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're a partner out there listening to this, you can help with this problem and consider this a challenge to you as a partner. We will not overcome these onboarding adoption problems if we keep presenting HubSpot as a point solution, no matter how easy it is to sell up front. And if you say that you want to solve for this problem and solve for your customers, ultimately, we wouldn't be here if we didn't think this full platform was the best possible way to support like a growing business that's focused on customers. And, like the thing that's magic to my ears is if we can get the customer on board with a unified view of their customer, like then it's like it should be open and shut case HubSpot. But that's where finding ways to talk about HubSpot less about the department that it's going to support and more about like what is it doing for the business, whether it's growth, whether it's experience, whether it's communication management.
And that might be the disconnect, because if you're a salesperson and you're looking for the hot button, you're looking for your magic bullet, and people don't really relate to the number one benefit, let's say, which is that unified view. People don't relate to it. You can't use it to sell, so you end up talking about all the shiny buttons. Yeah. So like we've got help desk, and we've got a sales prospecting space, and we've got sequences, and we've got all these different things, because people don't, and the reason they don't relate to the data is probably because they don't have that strategy in the first place, because they're not actually looking to measure anything. It's a chaotic business in the first place. I just wanted to think one last point, if I can squeeze it in. I know I'm in trouble when I'm talking to a HubSpot customer, and I mean this with the greatest of respect, right, to HubSpot customers. I'll explain myself, but I know I'm in trouble when somebody mentions that it's a huge jump between starter and pro, which it is. Of course it is, right? It absolutely is, but doesn't appreciate. They don't understand what is behind that jump. They don't understand the difference between a relatively unautomated collection of point solutions in Starter, which I think is one of the most brilliant purchases you can make in CRM land. 40 quid, or I've seen it go like £15, less than $20. It's insane the value you can get from it, right? But it is not the customer platform, in so much that you won't get into automation, insight, reporting, all the things that you need to run a business in HubSpot until you get to the pro level. Okay, so I sort of say, with respect to that customer, I realize they don't know what they're buying.
Right.
When they look, they're looking at a collection of tools. Why is this collection of tools so different from this collection of tools? Well, because that's an apple and this is an orange. That's the cheapest you can buy all the tools. This is a totally different thing. This is not a collection of tools. Yeah, I know it's obfuscated, it's confused, complicated by the fact that the limits are lifted. You now got 5,000 things that you can build instead of 100, but they should be marketed completely separately.
Yeah.
I think this is a totally disconnected system. This is a completely connected system.
Yeah, this is like a fruit basket, and this is like the best blended smoothie you've ever had in your life.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
That's yes, I agree. Like, we are in a bad place if we cannot afford the jump, like, because that's usually when I hear it, like, the jump is the cost between starter and pro. And that's where these major mechanisms of automation, insightful reporting, and now curation, of the workspaces, like, because the workspaces are also something that comes in, like the data templates that we're talking about, the curation that you can do for each user. A lot of that shows up in pro as well. And that's where, you can use all these things separately. You can make it manual as far as adding in a bunch of properties in these places. But that's where it's like, okay, if you're trying to grow by millions, and we're talking about a jump hundreds of dollars, per month, maybe a couple thousand, like, if you go all in, it's like we're not in a good place, because it's that versus millions of dollars in growth.
Yeah.
Like, so that can never be the if that's the reason.
Almost the size. Yeah, it's
right?
almost the size, and that's why I think the naming convention is quite good when it has sort of starter and pro. But certainly starter is a good name for it. But that's absolutely right. And the way I describe it, or try to describe it, again respectfully, it is, if you're looking at pro and you think it's too expensive, then it probably is. If you're looking at pro and you think, wow, what a return we're going to get from that investment, look at this is how we can do this and that and the other, then you're in the right place. It doesn't make any sense to you, and maybe that's something to do with where we come in. Maybe that's there's an aspect here that you don't really know why you're buying it. You buy it because somebody told you it was good, or you buy it because you think you should have one, or you buy it versus knowing that we need to ingest all of our data into one place, clean it, pretty it up, seek insight, understand what's going on in our business, understand what's going to happen within the next 12 months, 3 years, 5 years, mount all of our tooling into the same platform so we can do away with all of this inefficient connection. We can do away with translation pieces. We can do away with friction. We can do away with siloization of our teams because we've plugged everybody in. That makes a business sense when you know what those benefits are. And maybe that's it. Maybe HubSpot is just too successful at selling to people who aren't ready for it yet. maybe that's down to us, Chris. Maybe we should be searching for a better fit client for us, people who are ready to hear what we've got to teach. I don't want to convince you to buy HubSpot. If you don't want to buy it, don't buy it. It's cool. But if you know what it can do for you, I want to work with you.
Yeah. No, that's on point. Marketing is supposed to be doing the convincing. Sales just helps you buy. And that's where, again, HubSpot is the manufacturer in this case, and it was a lot easier to manage this handoff, if you will, when it was they just dominated the narrative that they were a marketing platform.
Yeah.
And like so often for me, as you get into like, okay, clearly there's baggage here we need to unpack with the way they think HubSpot is. And almost every time we get into the cost conversation, especially when it's just out of the gate, they're like, oh, HubSpot's too expensive, like just right away. It's almost always based on the $800 a month Marketing Hub Pro like subscription, almost every time. And I'm like, you don't even need Marketing Hub. Like, why are we even talking about this right now? But that's like, I think an important part of this, hopefully we can help identify, this baggage that exists because of this evolution of HubSpot, what it was like versus what it is now. It's very easy to go find pricing misinformation like online, right? And that's why like I'm an advocate for these daily shows, these regular shows, because it can be valuable to answer this question with a YouTube video, but it's out of date in like 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, maybe, depending on what you're talking about in the video. It's impossible, right? So if you actually want to, help with this challenge right now, it's trying to find ways to talk about this on a regular basis. And I'm trying to find ways to get HubSpot to be better at this outside of, Kyle Jepsen. And I think we're going to get there. I've got some good ideas. But the key is we're not going to get past this without talking about it, out loud. Yeah. Like there's just the fact that we've gone from 100,000 customers in 2020 to 200,000 customers. That has way more impact than just adding to the bottom line of HubSpot and all the partners, in that way more people are exposed to it. Way more people have opinions on what it does or what it has not done, for them. Because at the same time, we're hearing people that still have these challenges. And it's so funny when it's like clearly a different system causing the problem, but they think it's HubSpot because there's data duplication and all this stuff. And it's just like, yeah, getting clear on what HubSpot is supposed to be doing, for the business. It's got to be job one, right? Or else why are you investing in the tool in the first place?
100%.
So
100%. Love it.
So we're going to continue this journey of answering these foundational questions. Maybe someday we get to build on top of that. But until then, until we shore up this foundation, we want to help you guys find those opportunities, and let's grow. Have a great week, everybody.